My wife knows things she shouldn't know. Not little things, everything. Every argument I had with my father when I was 9 years old. Every nightmare I had in college that I never wrote down and never spoke aloud. Every secret I buried so deep I stopped believing it myself. She knows all of it. And last Thursday, when I finally asked her how, she smiled and said, "Because I was there, Marcus. I was there." I had known her for 4 years. She grew up in Portland, and I grew up alone. My name is Marcus Webb. I am 34. I live in a clean, quiet house in Naperville with my wife Claire and our dog Hector. By every single measure, my life is good. Claire is a brilliant wife. She is warm. She laughs at the right moments and goes quiet at the right moments. She finishes my sentences, not in an annoying way, in the way that makes you feel truly known by another person. Everyone who meets her says the same thing. Max, she is perfect. And she is. That's the problem. We have a dog. His name is Hector. A big, stupid, lovable golden retriever who barks at squirrels and mailmen, and once spent 20 minutes growling at a garden hose. In 4 years, Hector has never once barked at Claire. Not even once. Not a growl. Not even the low rumble dogs make when something feels off. I used to think that meant he loved her. I understand now what it actually meant. He didn't react to her the way he didn't react to the furniture, to the walls, to the things that simply have no scent. The first crack appeared 8 months ago. We were at dinner, just the two of us. Pasta, a bottle of wine, and I mentioned often that I used to be scared of the number 14 as a kid. Some weird, irrational thing. I would skip the 14th step on staircases. I never told anyone that. Not a therapist, not a journal, not a single person alive. But Claire looked up from her plate and said, "I know. You used to count the steps before you climbed them." I put down my fork. I asked her how she knew that. She blinked, tilted her head slightly, and said, "You told me, remember? That night in the Asherville." We have never been to Asherville. I told myself I had misremembered. That's what you do when the alternative is too strange to hold. But then it kept happening. She knew about the scar on my left knee, not the story I tell people, the real story. The one involving a rusted fence and a stupid deer and a summer I have spent 20 years trying to forget. She knew my childhood dog's name, Rex, dead since I was 11. I had never mentioned him, not even once. She knew the exact words my mother said to me the night she left, word for word. Like she had been standing in the kitchen in Gary, Indiana in 1999, watching. I started testing her, casually. I would drop a fake memory into conversation, something that never happened, just to see if she would agree. But she never did. She would gently correct me every time. No, that's not how it went, Max. Remember? It was raining. Your jacket was blue, not green. And she was always right. And I was always wrong. And then one evening, I came home from work and Hector ran to me at the door, tail wagging, the whole thing normal. But when I walked into the kitchen where Claire was standing, Hector stopped at the doorway. He sat down, he looked at me and growled. But not at Claire, at me, low and steady, like I was the stranger in the house. Claire did not look up from the stove. She just said quietly, "He does that when you start doubting things. He can feel it on you." I didn't ask what she meant. I was too afraid of the answer. And slowly, horribly, I began to wonder, what if I'm the one who cannot be trusted? Next day, I hired a private investigator, Sal Briggs, out of Chicago. Ex-cop, no nonsense, $50 an hour. 2 weeks later, he called me from a number I didn't recognize. He said, "Mr. Webb, I need you to sit down." I was already sitting. He said Claire's records were completely real. Portland, University of Oregon, the marketing firm, the apartment on Burnside Street, every detail verified. Everything she had told me checked out perfectly. And then he said the thing that made the room tilt. He said, "The problem isn't her records, Marcus. The problem is yours." He said he couldn't find me before 2019. No school enrollment, no medical history, no childhood photos in any database, no yearbooks, nothing before 5 years ago. I was about to speak when he said, "Max, wait, there's one more thing. I found one photograph. You are standing next to Claire." I asked him when it was taken. He said, 1997. But I was 7 years old in 1997. Claire would have been 6. Claire wasn't in any of my childhood memories. I had no memory of her at 7, at 10, at 15, at any age before the night we met at a mutual friend's dinner party in the winter of 2020. And yet there she was, standing next to me in a photograph I had never seen, in a backyard I didn't recognize, both of us smiling. She was already watching me before I existed. I have a birth certificate. I have a social security number. I have a mother buried in Crown Hill Cemetery in Indianapolis and a childhood home on Garfield Avenue. I can describe room by room, the yellow wallpaper in the kitchen, the broken radiator, the crack in the ceiling shaped like a river. But Sal couldn't find a single record. And now there was a photograph of me as a child, standing next to a woman I wouldn't meet for another 23 years. He said, "It's like you were built in 2019 and handed a full set of memories. And she has been in the blueprint the whole time." I hung up, sat in my car in the doorway for 2 hours. Then I walked inside. Claire was in the kitchen, music playing softly, dinner almost ready. She looked up and smiled, the exact, perfect, warm smile, and said, "Long day." I asked her very quietly who she really was. She put down the wooden spoon. She turned to face me fully, and for just a half second, the briefest flicker, her expression went completely blank. Not sad, not scared, not guilty, just empty. The way a screen looks between loading one image and the next. Then the smile came back, and she said, "Marks, I'm your wife. I'm the only real thing in this house." She looked right at me when she said it. The only real thing. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay there in the dark, listening to Claire's breath beside me. Steady, slow, perfect. And I opened my phone and went back through 5 years of photos. Every photo of us together. Vacations, dinners, holidays. The day we got Hector. I zoomed in on Claire's eyes. In every single photograph, her eyes were open, not slightly open, fully, completely open, even where the flash had gone off directly in her face. Even in photos taken in pitch dark, her eyes never reacted, never squinted, never changed. I thought about every memory I had before Claire, and for the first time, really truly for the first time, I tried to name one single person from before 2019 who was still in my life. One person, just one. But there are 0 people from before 2019. I stood up, I went to the bathroom and locked the door. I stood at the mirror and stared at my own face for a long time. And behind me, in the reflection, Claire was standing in the open doorway. But I unlocked the door. She wasn't angry. She wasn't threatening. She was just watching me with that warm, perfect, patient expression. "It's okay, Marks. You always figure it out around this point." I said, "This point?" She tilted her head and said, "We have had this conversation 11 times now. 11 successful times." Something in that word stopped me cold. I asked, "Successful?" She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, "The first 7 virgins never accepted it." I didn't ask what happened to them. I realized, standing there in that locked bathroom with Claire behind me, that I was terrified of the answer, and that the fear itself, that specific, cold, quiet terror, was probably the last true human thing I had left. I whispered, "What am I?" She smiled, soft, almost sad, and said, "You are mine. That's the only answer that matters." Then she reached past me and turned off the light. I don't know what I am. I don't know if these memories are mine, or if they were given to me like furniture placed in a room before you arrive. I don't know if the childhood I remember, the pain, the scars, the crack in the ceiling, shaped like a river, was real, or just a story someone needed me to believe. I don't know what happened to the first 7, but I know this. When I woke up the next morning, everything felt normal. Claire made coffee. Hector barked at the mailman. The sun came through the kitchen window the way it always does. Hector didn't growl at me today. I think that's the part that should scare me the most. And I smiled. I can't remember why I was ever afraid. If the person closest to you knows things they shouldn't, don't ask them how, because the answer might remind you that you already asked 11 successful times.